Ton with Marketing Resolution. Thanks so much for joining me for Marketing Monday. I want to talk today about networking. If you've heard me speak publicly before, you've heard me talk about the 5 basic things that we do to build a mediation or arbitration practice. And they are, writing, speaking, training, networking, and then when those 4 things come home at night, they always live on social media. Those are the 5 basic, things that we need to do to build our practices. And so let's talk today. Let's talk specifically about networking. And I get this question all the time about networking. My people call and say, I'm always networking. I'm out there. I'm meeting people. I'm always doing it. And when we really talk about what they're doing, there are some improvements that could be made. So let's talk about what networking really is and how to really sort of level up your networking game so you get the most out of your time and your effort networking your mediation practice. And I think first thing that we want to think about and talk about networking is where we're networking. And of course, we need to be networking within our industry. And so, for example, networking inside the American Bar Association's section for dispute resolution, or networking inside CEDAR, or networking inside your, mediation organization. Fine, that's great, right? But that really is for your own edification. That keeps you up to date on what's happening in our world for your practice. But it doesn't really put you in touch with the people most likely to hire you. And that's where we really want to shine. And so think about your primary, secondary, or even tertiary target market. Where are your potential clients? Where do they congregate? Where do they go? Right? That's the groups, or those rather, are the groups that we really want to work with. And so make a list of where they are. Is it corporate counsel? Is it a bar association? Is it the Chamber of Commerce? Is it the local country club? Where are your people, right? And then also think about if your potential clients have gatekeepers or if they have regular sources of referral. So if example might be, if you do family and divorce mediation, a good source of referral might be CPAs or pediatricians or school counselors, right? There's social workers, marriage and family therapists. There are lots of different places that you might be getting referrals from. And so you want to look at those. But you make a list of all of those different places, those associations, organizations, whatever they might be, and then really carefully think about what each one has to offer and how you can best interact with its members or its group. And so once you've got your list, then if you haven't already been a member, if you haven't already worked with that group, you want to try it on for size and see if it's right. Before writing a check, contact their membership committee person and say, I'm thinking about joining. Can I come to the next event and just make sure that this is right for me before I pay my annual dues, right? Because joining all of these different groups can get expensive and time consumptive. So you want to pick and choose carefully. So join the group, try it on for size, then pay your dues if it's really going to be good for you. When you get an idea that this is the right place for you to be, go back to your office, or go back home, or sit in your car, wherever you're comfortable. And then with the mindset that this is networking, right? Not net sitting, not net dancing, not net eating, it's networking. It's very intentional. You're going to go with a purpose to these events. And each event might have a different reason for your participation there. But really think about why you need to be at this event. Why do you need to go to visit with this group? Why would you want to go? What's the goal? What's the purpose? And actually write it down. And it could be that you want to meet 5 new people. It could be that you want to get an introduction to the person that publishes the blog posts so that you can submit an article for publication. It could be that you want an introduction to the person who schedules the public speakers, right? So that you can be one of the training staff or one of those folks. So really think about why you want to go. What is your purpose? Write it down on a piece of paper, put it in your pocket, type it up on the notes on your smartphone so that you can pull your phone out, and then follow up with that. And networking, I know it can be a little stressful. It's a lot like dating. It's a lot like, you feel like you're back at a singles bar in a university. And that's okay. Some of us are introverts, and networking is difficult. So when you are looking at these different groups and you're thinking about which one you want to belong to, you can fairly easily identify the person in the organization or in the group, or ask who this person might be, that is the social butterfly. And in every single group, there is someone, I promise, who knows everybody in the room, what kind of car they drive, where their kids go to school. There's that person in every group. You then only have to approach that one person and take your notes out of your pocket or open your iPhone and say to that person. So if it were me, for example, you'd say, Natalie, can you introduce me to the editor of the blog? Natalie, could you introduce me to the manager of training? Natalie, could you introduce me to the member who manages the speakers bureau? Natalie, could you introduce me to this person, or this person? And if I'm that social butterfly, I'm going to get a big smile on my face and say, yes, absolutely, follow me. You're going to put your arm in the crook of my elbow, and I'm going to walk you across the room and make those introductions for you. And I'll make it a lot easier for you, right? So in every group, you want to find that person. So you go with a list, you go with intention, you go with a purpose. And even if you're an introvert, you can get those introductions. Maybe you want to sit on their board of directors. Maybe you want to handle the silent auction. Maybe you want to volunteer to be a committee member helping them set up their annual conference. I mean, there's so many different ways for you to interact with this group. But what you really want to do, what you really want to focus on, though, is the communication that you're going to have. Now, there are thousands and thousands of books that talk about how to be a better networker, how to network, tons and tons of them. The gist of it is that you want to have an authentic interaction with the other person. So it isn't that you always want to walk up to a total stranger and hold out your hand and say, hi, my name's Nancy, and I'd like to be your next mediator. That's off-putting, right? And the reason that we get hired as mediators and arbitrators is because people like us. They wouldn't be offended by, spending 8 hours in a closed room with us or on Zoom with us. They trust that we can handle their case and, that we'll make it easier for them and for their clients. All of those things are important. And the way that they get to that decision-making paradigm, right? The reason that we get chosen is because we've passed all of those barriers. And that only happens when we've had an authentic interaction with them in some way. So networking is important for that reason. It lets people get to know us. It lets them like us, and it lets them know that they can trust us, that we're credible authorities, on mediation and arbitration, on what it is that we do. So networking counts for those reasons. And the way that you make best use of that authentic interaction, and it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to be about ADR. You can talk to them about tennis. You can talk to them about, how to lay lawn seed. You can talk to them about being an empty nester. You can talk to them about a million different things, as long as it's authentic. The key then is the follow-up. And I don't, my memory is good, but it's not extraordinary. It certainly is not one of my superpowers. And so as I'm meeting new people and I'm exchanging business cards with them, I can collect 10, maybe 12 different business cards. And then I have to excuse myself into the hallway or into a lobby. And I take notes on the back of the person's business card, what it is we talked about. Did we talk about something and I said, oh, I've got an article about that. Let me send you an article about that. Or isn't that fascinating? Let me send you an email and ask you to send me a copy of your article, right? Whatever the exchange was. Maybe we didn't talk about business at all. Maybe we talked about, your new golf clubs. It doesn't matter. I write on the back of the business card whatever the conversation was, so that I can then go back inside, continue networking, continue talking to people, continue creating those relationships. When I go back to my home or to my office at the end of the networking event, then I can put all of that information together and follow up. So if I've said that I'm going to email you an article, then I can quickly find you on LinkedIn, connect with you on LinkedIn, or send you an email, or whatever the medium preference is, and I can send you the information that I said I would. And if you don't, that's really not cool. If you say, oh, I'm going to send you an article, and then you just don't, you just ghost people, super not cool. But you get huge extra credit if you do it same day or next morning, depending on the event, right? So if you can be quick, Johnny on the spot, and get that information right back to them, really impressive. Really, really impressive. The best I've ever been able to do was, networking events are frequently not where I live. And so I can quick go back upstairs to a hotel room and open my computer and send it to them before the networking event has even finished. So that's really what is important, the follow-up, right? And then you give them a little bit of time to absorb the information. And you always want to have the invitation as not necessarily the last line, but one of the last thoughts of your communication, your follow-up communication, is an invitation for them to contact you, ask a question, and this is right in your wheelhouse. Ask an open-ended question and say, I really hope this answered your question. If not, though, please let me know. I'd be happy to be a resource for you, and let's find the answer together, or whatever the situation calls for. But be sure that you have the invitation, or ask the open-ended question that encourages them to come back to you with an answer. Don't just give, here's the information you want, sign your name and close it out. You want to encourage the dialogue. You want to encourage the back and forth, right? And that's where really intelligent networking separates itself from just sitting next to somebody and, eating your cold chicken dinner, right? You really want to work the event. You really want to work these contacts. You really want to work at being a good resource. You really want to work at being the hub of information. You really want to work at establishing this authentic interpersonal business relationship. That's what networking is about. And then, keeping up with those people, keeping in contact, inviting them to stay in touch. But that is sort of the sum of networking and why it's so important. Networking, so that's face-to-face, obviously. Networking can also be done on social media in much the same way. It's a little slower, a little more abbreviated conversationally, and generally not as fruitful, but it's an excellent jumping off place. So you can start the dialogue with someone, for example, that you meet on a social media platform and say, hey, I saw your profile and that you went to this conference. I was there too. I'm sorry that we didn't get to meet, but when I look at your bio, it tells me that this is your specialty and these are your clients, etc. And I'm fascinated by the article that you wrote. I would love to ask you some questions about it. And that's how you start that conversation. And there are lots and lots of books, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books that talk about those conversational icebreakers. But it's almost always with a question. I've got, just a quick question for you. Have you ever had one of these? Or what do you do with this? Or, gosh, I had one of those. I thought I was alone in that situation. It's fascinating to see what your response was versus my response. And it's just a natural conversation. And again, always, even on social media, when you're texting, typing, DMing, SMSing, however you want to define the interaction, it is always encouraging the next conversation. Ask the question, make the invitation, and encourage the next interaction. You always want to keep that ball going. There's always that liaison between what I've said here and what I'd like to have happen next. Should we take this off of the DMs and move it to email? Or should we take it off of, texting and typing to each other and let's meet for a coffee, or let's meet via Zoom so that we can have an actual conversation, right? So that's really what you're looking for in networking. And again, thousands and thousands of books have been written on it, but this is the summary of it. And this is why it's so important for mediators and arbitrators to do a good job in networking, because it establishes that we, again, are the credible authority on ADR and our processes and our practice specialties, and that people can trust us with their clients. Excuse me, a bit of a cold today. So that's it. Thanks very much for joining me.